Hey y'all, thank you so much for joining me for another video. I am, of course, as always, in Procreate, and I'm using the grid function to draw some straight lines and basically figure out a grid that's going to work. And there's no way to really get this precise. I mean, I guess you could fiddle until you get your grid sizes right, but I didn't worry about that. I just kind of got close, and then I scaled it until it felt right. And so I'm just doing that, and then I center it, and then just make sure that they're spaced kind of similar apart. And I don't think anybody's ever going to notice if they're not. I started off by taking a screenshot of all of them kind of separated out, and then I just start trying to draw their likenesses. And I think Dahlia is the only one that I just kind of free-handed. And this is my preferred way to keep things kind of fresh and loose, especially on faces. But I realized that if I did this, I was going to be here forever. And so you'll see in a second, I start to sketch out everybody else's faces in red because there's no way that I could just freehand all these and they all look kind of consistent and good. So once I finish with Dahlia, I make an easier choice for me. So I know a lot of people were sick and tired of Dahlia as the broccoli, but I love those forced kind of jokes. And I think that people really like them when there's somebody that they liked a lot, and we just didn't get enough time with Dahlia to really appreciate her as the broccoli. I love when Henny is in All Stars and pops up every 5 minutes. I love that. And I think Crystal was the one that I had the most trouble with just because there's so much glued to her face. This look had me gagged. I was like, what are you thinking? What are you doing? But I loved every second of it at the same time. And I think that's my favorite part of drag is when you're just you don't have any words because you haven't seen it before. And I think Sasha's great at that. And Evie at times is really good at that. And so is Crystal. I just love the ones that are weird. I just relate because I was that kid in art school that, just didn't do exactly what I was supposed to because it was more fun to kind of go around the rules than to follow them. And so here you can see I am drawing the red to kind of flesh everything out. I fell in love with Widow again. I had kind of forgot how much I liked Widow in the season, but Widow was gone so fast that the second in just felt like the cast was amazing, and I really just forgot. But when Widow started dropping bars, I was like, oh my god. And I'm gonna start drawing Aiden shortly, but Aiden's one of those queens that I think her looks were really good. She just didn't quite have the experience and extroverted personality that she needed to go far in this competition. She's one of those that is a spooky queen and it looks good and she does it well. But it's just she's kind of like Scaredy Cat. She just needs a little more experience, right? I think Aiden is one of those queens that if you give her a few years, she's really going to come into her own. She's young. She hasn't had the touring experience of some of these other girls, and there's nothing wrong with that. I mean, you've got to start somewhere. I think Scaredy Cat is a prime example of somebody that was a bedroom queen, and they hadn't quite developed their own sense of drag. And it comes with time. Some of these girls have been doing it for absolutely forever. So here we go. Here's another attempt at Crystal. I think what finally sealed the deal for me was pulling back the mutton chops a little bit. I didn't think I'd ever say this in a video about drag, but trimming back the mutton chops made Crystal come to life for me. And it's not as good as my other Crystal drawings, but not everything can be perfect. So after I kind of do some of the red lines, I start to flesh out some of these basic shapes in the more fluid Werk Zine style. I try not to overwork any of this. Put it down, move on. You don't have all day, right? And that's kind of the attitude that most artists should have, but we don't. We want everything to be perfect and just right. And 95% of the time, what you did the first time was just as good as what you do the last time, if not better. Because there's something to say about having like fresh, fluid, clean lines. I will say that watching this season, I had no idea who was going to win. This season was so great that the problem I think with a lot of the past seasons is sometimes you would have two really, really strong queens, and sometimes three. And if they didn't succeed in a challenge, the whole thing just kind of bombed. But this season was great in the sense that it had queens that like their strong suit may have been one place and not another. And they kind of balanced each other out really, really well. So there was never any episode that just completely bombed, right? So Heidi and Gigi, these are some of the few girls that I've drawn already this season because I kind of like took a break. So I've kind of already got the shorthand for them. I know what they look like, and I've been drawing Gigi for about 2 years now. So I've pretty much got Gigi's face kind of to a science. It changes a little bit from time to time, but I kind of am satisfied with the way I draw it. And I have to say that I love Heidi, and I don't think Heidi should have had to defend herself with her name. Like, yeah, is her name the best? No, but like, who else has to change their name to be on Drag Race? Like, it's kind of silly, and it was a fun joke, and it was like interesting to see what they were going to call her the next week. But I didn't know that people like actually thought that she was going to change it. She's become a brand now. Like, why would you change your name? And I have to say, I think this is the first time that I was able to draw Heidi smiling. I think that I kept her pretty serious in the other ones. And I have to say, like, I want to draw this gap so much more. Like, it was so fun to draw from a reference that had her smiling really big and showing that gap because, I'm down with GAP. So something about my style you may notice is I don't really draw chins unless they're in like a 3/4 or a profile view. And that sometimes like throws me off a little bit because like when I get down to like this, like I'm just like, I know that it will tie together when I get to the coloring stage. But right now I'm just so like, ugh, because it looks like maybe like Bob's Burgers or something like that. And I know that when the shading comes in, it doesn't look that way because I draw a pretty hard contour line. But, you get it. So I forgot to press record here. So you missed me doing the other sketch, but it'll come back in a minute when I kind of flesh out some more of the details. I had a lot of fun drawing Jan's shirt. I'm not normally one for somebody that pushes memes, unless it's the broccoli, I guess. But I liked this. It was fun to make a meme of a meme, which I know a lot of artists like make their living by redrawing memes and making that like the fun thing. But I don't really do that a lot. I try to draw, in my mind, serious fashion art. And I know it's not. I know it's cute, like fun stuff. But in my mind, I'm drawing like really serious, groundbreaking fashion illustrations. And I don't know if I'm super happy with Jan's likeness. I think it's close enough. And I originally think that I started my sketch, which it's not here, so I can't see it right now. But I think I started my sketch full on, and it just wasn't working. There was just something that wasn't working about this for me. And I think it's because, like, when we see Jan, like, Jan usually has a lot of hair. And so I don't know if, like, in my mind, Jan has her hair put up, but here it is. I think this likeness may be my favorite. There's just something so lovable about Jackie. And I feel like I really just kind of captured that essence here. And it's kind of the same with Heidi. Like, when they're having a lot of fun, it shows. And I have to say, I'm one of the people that never really cared for the, what would you say to 3-year-old, 4-year-old, whatever your boy name is, and how would that change? Because I think that it's kind of emotion porn, where it's just like this thing to make people cry. And I'm not about that, but like I love that Jackie was able to connect with her mom and that it wasn't a forced kind of moment between the show and, a drag queen. Like, it wasn't bringing their parents in or forcing them to talk about it. Like, it feels like it was something that happened really organic, and I'm happy for Jackie. Like, I hate when it's like RuPaul's Drag Race brings family together. And it's like, yeah, I think it's great that people are able to reach their dreams and have these conversations with their families that they never had before. But I don't like feeling like the drag queen was manipulated into having a conversation or share their feelings. And maybe that's because I'm very Southern and we don't do that. We're very surface level. We'll get real with you in a minute if you want to talk like that, but we're not going to just like, like heavy hand you into talking about your feelings. This look from Jada was everything. It's very, I think it's Rolf and Victor. It's very Courtney from, what is it, season 5, season 6, whatever. I think season 6 that she was in. She did this similar look. It's always been one of my favorite looks in like modern contemporary fashion. Like, I think it's so funny and so stupid at the same time, and it really works for Jada's brand. And I'm really happy with this drawing of her. I think it turned out well. So I'm not going to go through and show you every single detail of every queen. Like, we're kind of just going to go through, and then I'll just do a time lapse of the coloring. But I have to say this reunion format really worked for me. And it's kind of sad because I feel like if they were in there together, that maybe there would have been a little bit more tension and a little more drama. I can definitely say that, and I don't mean any shade to any queen, because I know that talking about these things and reliving some of these moments is kind of hard, and some of them are probably still a little bitter, especially because I've had months to think about it, like being quarantined. Like, I definitely know what that feels like myself. But it was good. Like, it was kind of refreshing to see them in a different light. They seemed more relaxed and more just we're hanging out with friends. Than sometimes the reunions feel very stifled and very forced drama. And this didn't. I mean, I know that they joked about it, but nothing really felt kind of just really crazy. So on this, I'm basically creating maybe 2 to 3 layers. Like, the clothes are on a layer, the skin is on a layer, and the hair might be on a different layer. But I didn't want this to take much longer than it had to, because honestly, you're really just trying to get the likenesses and move on. So yeah, I just kind of filled in as little detail as possible and just moved on about my day. I was already at like 4 or 5 hours at this point, and I just kind of wanted to get it done. So I bulk out all these shapes, and I think I got down to like the last 2 girls, and my Procreate crashed, which is so frustrating because I was so close to being done, and then all of a sudden, you're even farther away than you were before. And you'll see a second, like, I'll bring in a screenshot from the time lapse that Procreate already automatically creates and start coloring all of the clothes. And luckily, the skin, which I find is a harder part, was left alone. Like, that layer didn't crash, but so frustrating. But I'll definitely say, to kind of wrap this video up, I loved these queens. I love this season, and I think that it was so good to watch. And I'm so excited about seeing what they do for the finale. And I hope that there's some really good looks that I can draw. But thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you enjoyed just listening to me talk and draw. You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Patreon as Werk Zine. Thank you so much for your support, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you.